Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. What is going on? Guys, I just finished Hyrox New York. It was awesome. The energy at this event was awesome. I am all in on Hyrox, and I really, really love what they're doing. They found a way to create a sport that I think is the healthiest to train for, and I train for it. I feel like it's very balanced. My physique is good. My energy levels are good. You know, sometimes I can't say that with ultra marathons when we're doing 120-mile weeks, but I love it, and I want to talk about the beauty of Hyrox or another race that's kind of in this like 60-minute time frame. Maybe even half marathons would work for this, but I think the beauty of these races is that it actually is a mental sharpening tool. And what I mean by that is there's really like you know, with an ultra marathon, like you can slip up a little bit, right? Like second to second, you don't need to stay sharp. I wouldn't say that for Hyrox. It is a very dynamic workout where, you know, there's 8 runs and 8 stations, so 16 different times you're transitioning to an exercise within whatever time you finish it. For me, it was an hour 5. So every like 3-4 minutes, you're changing something, sometimes even less frequently, or more frequently. And it's just beautiful the way that this race sharpens my awareness. I looked at it as a hour and 5-minute meditation where I had to stay sharp and in the present moment and track my breath for 65 minutes. And I'd like to get into a little bit of that right now. So when we're talking about staying aware, that means awareness of what's around you, where you are in the race, what station you're on, what level of effort you need to do, your form, your whereabouts, because it's a very, very hectic race. There's a lot of people. You're going in and out into the stations, and I love putting myself in this situation. Right now, I'm thinking about Hyrox, right? Just because, hey, I just finished it. But really, it's about anything, any type of workout like this, in my opinion, is such a good mental tool. And anything that can help me on my physical and mental well-being is really amazing. I had some friends who were racing and made some major mistakes on the race, not even physically, right? On the format of the race. And that's kind of part of it, right? Like being able to prepare for something and then execute, that is a huge piece of this. All my friends, there were a few of them that made this mistake. Like they looked at that as like a fun thing to work on for the next thing, right? If you're trying to translate that to being aware and present in a big meeting, a pitch that's 60 minutes long, a date with your significant other, like these things are very, very important, right? I know it kind of sounds like a funny metaphor, a funny thing to connect on, but really it's like, it's kind of like what life is all about. Like we have these moments that we're made for, and we need to make sure that we execute in that moment. Talking about that, right? Talking about being in a moment that we're made for. So if you're unfamiliar with Hyrox, it is a 1-kilometer run followed by a strength or, kind of like a power exercise 8 times in a row. So there's 8 kilometers that you run, and there are 8 stations. It ends in a station, then you cross the finish line. The last station was 100 wall balls. I'm very, very proud of myself, so I got to share that I was able to do 100 unbroken, which was really, really powerful. Because honestly, I train for this, because I want to compete. I want to do my best. Don't really care about my time in relation to other people. I care about my time in relation. I don't even really care about my time. I care about, did I feel like I put a good effort in that day? And did I prepare my body to allow me to put a good effort in? And the first thing I ask myself is, did you finish strong? I'm running that eighth and final lap going into the 100 wall balls. And I started telling myself, you're like exhausted, right? So I started telling myself, all right, like maybe break it up 25, 25, 25, 25. And then I was like, you know what? Like you always say that you're made for these moments. Like I believe, right? Like when it gets hard is when you need to show up. If you wait until it gets hard and then you dial back, that is like working out till like, it's like if you're doing push-ups and maybe you can do 20 and you want to get to 30, but you do 20 and it gets tiring, so you stop. And you do that for a year. You're not going to get to 30, right? You're going to maintain where you're at, which is great, but you're not going to progress. And, I think progression is a huge element of happiness, of success. And it was really important for me to finish strong. So I'm coming around the bend and going to the wall balls, and I just told myself, like, I was like, it was so much self-talk, and that's part of being aware too. And I just told myself, Sean, you need to attack this curiously. You need to finish strong. You need to absolutely, leave it all out there and stay curious, stay curious, stay curious. I kept telling myself that. And I started doing these wall balls, right? And what happens? Your shoulders get tired. Your heart is pounding. Your quads get tired. And I just told myself, just keep going curiously. Like, what is going to happen? Your legs are not going to fall off. Your shoulders aren't going to fall off. You're not going to get a heart attack, hopefully. And just stick with it and until you have every ounce of your body saying, like, you must stop. And it's crazy what happens. Every time I've challenged myself to do this on an ultra marathon, on a physical challenge, you just hit a point of your body, like, realizing, oh, like, he's not going to stop. And it adapts and it starts to create the energy that you need to complete the exercise. Yes, I have met my match with that many, many times, right? Obviously it doesn't just quite work out that black and white, but that's how it worked out today. And it was awesome. I got 100 unbroken. I was really happy with how I finished. And, that helps you start to find your mental edge. It's not about a physical edge. It's always about the mental edge, how much energy you're willing to put forward and what you're willing to do. And, for me, that's what it was. I didn't find that edge, which actually left me a little bit unsatisfied because at some point I wanted to say I put my best effort out and quit. That's why I have the adventure I do this summer coming up. Not because I think we're gonna quit, but it's gonna get me closer to that edge. And I think the closer you get to that edge, the longer your edge is, if that makes sense. It's like it expands your comfort zone. So that was one piece as far as kind of going back to what I was saying in the beginning about what I'm looking for out of this. The first thing is like finishing really hard. The next thing is staying present through it. So obviously just executing the race with no penalties and all of that is really important. But being able to understand your body and push yourself to threshold and not past it. So what I mean by that is this is a 60-minute race if you're the best in the world and up from there, right? 55, I guess, or 56 if you're the best in the world. Nobody can be past threshold for that long. So no one could be in zone 5 heart rate, giving it their all. So it's how do you condition your body to be able to withstand, being close to threshold for a while, but how do you understand your own body intimately and your mental capacity to be able to push yourself close to threshold without going over? That's something that just takes practice. I entered this in really, really good shape, but I did not do any specific Hyrox training, which left a lot of time on the table. So very excited to go back and try to go sub, maybe right around an hour, sub 1 hour potentially. But one of my issues was that I actually didn't think I was in as good shape for some of the anaerobic work. you can't go anaerobic anaerobic means without air. You can't go anaerobic for 60 minutes, but you can push yourself to those levels, and then you can actually like basically like regain your oxygen levels during the activity. If you get back to zone 2 and get your breathing right. So that was something that I absolutely needed to work on with this was I finished and I left a little on the table, right? I wasn't completely roasted at the end like I have been before with Hyrox. And that's kind of frustrating, right? Because being in better shape and not trusting the shape you're in and sending it is that's absolutely part of the race, just like, messing up on something is part of the race. So that was definitely a big learning of mine. And the reason it's a little extra frustrating is because I believe that it's a transferable skill set. So if you're able to build the skill set of understanding where your edge is, and then not, and then like being able to either push a little bit past it or kind of stay right there, that's going to help in so much of life, right? So if you are working and being a parent and being a good partner, and you're trying to work on your fitness and whatever, like you need to understand how much capacity you can handle in a day, and you need to max that capacity out. It's like, imagine spending a day where, yeah, maybe you got a lot of relaxing in, but it's because, you didn't get all the things you wanted done, right? You didn't know where your limits were. And it's really important to know that. And the only way to know it is to actually figure it out by testing, right? Like push yourself a little past the limit sometime. Push yourself a little under the limit. Try to narrow in and understand what your capacity is. And it's going to allow you to I would say accomplish more. If you're not watching this, I'm using quotes when I say accomplish, because I was actually talking to my brother about this last night. I think we should be productive and accomplishing something 24/7 with a huge asterisk, that your definition of accomplish needs to be dialed, right? Sitting on the couch with my brother last night, we didn't have a TV on. We were just chatting. That's accomplishing something, right? I don't even care what we were chatting about. We were just building a bond as brothers. Meditating, laying in the grass yesterday and staring up at the trees for a half hour, playing with the dogs. That's accomplishing something, right? So those are accomplishing things because, like time to decompress, to be in nature, to build relationships. Those are important. We're only alive 24 hours a day, and we're sleeping 8 of them. You got 16 hours. How much can you experience and quote unquote accomplish or sit with for that time? And that's something that I'm trying to master. And it is a delicate thing to play with, because the days that you go over, man, they're tough. Some things has to give, and you might end up feeling a little guilty for not getting it done. But I do think it's worth it to find that edge. I have a good buddy of mine recently that was talking about, everyone's like in the health and wellness space is like, give yourself rest, give yourself grace right now. And I think for a lot of people that are, doing too much, that's a great message. I think a lot of people are actually on the other side. They are not pushing themselves enough, right? Like I see people that aren't pushing themselves enough in the gym or at business or with their relationships. And, I say that with no judgment, not even saying like, hey, you should be pushing yourself hard. I'm saying that to their standards, right? There are people who are then complaining about things they're not working on. So it's like, I'm not saying that compared to my standard or at all. It's of theirs. And, it's a really interesting thing, but my buddy has this quote and he says, I don't think he coined it, but in my mind, it's his quote. And he says, I'd rather burn out than rust out. And, maybe that resonates with you, maybe it doesn't, but for me, it sure does, because, I don't want to burn out. I'm focusing every single day on regeneration of energy, good sleep, good exercise, good food, meditation, good times with friends. But man, if I rusted out, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And that's kind of the difference. And I think you have to really dial in what that edge is for you. Well, I do want to get into the race a little bit with Hyrox, and actually some of the training that I did for not this one, but my last Hyrox, because I actually think a lot of it carried over. So I'm an endurance athlete, right? I do ultra marathons, and Hyrox, and I love to lift heavy and do power exercises, right? So I always tell myself I need to be able to run an ultra, dunk a basketball, and bench 225, right? Like that's like from a physical standpoint, that's what I'm looking to do. And I know a lot of people are trying to do multiple things, right? Like it's scary to say, I'm just going to train for a marathon. I'm just going to train for Hyrox. I'm just going to become a bodybuilder. I've found something that if you get yourself a good base and then you almost have like a little personal fitness test for yourself, it's a good way to be able to stay versatile, right? So for example, on the weekends, I always run a half marathon, either Saturday or Sunday. I built up a great running base for a while, and when I'm not running that much, if I do a half marathon every weekend, which sounds like a ton, but I'm talking, I've built this up for years. That's my test of like, okay, at any moment I could be 8 weeks out from a pretty serious race. Because I am running through the week, but maybe just not as serious or something like that. A Hyrox simulation, or just like a Hyrox style workout where you're doing fast running with high intensity work, absolutely no breaks, is a great way to stay with it. I've been traveling a lot, and like I said, I really did not train for this Hyrox. So it was the last one. I did a lot of specific training, and then I knew that it's ultramarathon season, it's spring, summer's coming up. Like it is time to get outside and hit the trails. But I had this race on the calendar. So while I was training for my ultramarathon over the last 3 months, once a week I would do like just a high intensity workout. Like actually I did one last night, and it was run a quarter mile. So run a lap around a track. There's a pull-up bar there, 6 pull-ups, 12 push-ups, and hit a lap again as many times as you can in 30 minutes. And cook. I mean, time your laps and beat everyone. Do pull-ups with perfect form. Use that as a chance to regain your breath, and then cook the lap. I was able to get 23 rounds, and it was a little over 30 minutes because I lost my timer. But you do something like that, and you're able to maintain this level of fitness that's going to allow me to say, oh, I can jump into a Hyrox, or with just maybe 6 to 8 weeks of training, I can do really well at a Hyrox. And I think that's important because unless you are specializing, which awesome if you want to, but unless you are specializing, it's fun to be like solid at a lot of things. And we always hear the term hybrid athlete. A lot of people are focusing on being a hybrid athlete these days. And I think I think this is a great way to compete at a high enough level and keep your training, pretty minimal for, all the things that you're trying to do. So I just wanted to talk about my Hyrox experience and the mental side of it. It was really something that was a good lesson for me. Find your edge in everything you do and get intimate with yourself. It's amazing. Next thing I got a 100-mile bike ride coming up this weekend. And then we have some long backpacking trips that I will mix in with running. So I will be ready for my big adventure of the year, July 20th to 20 whatever. Me and my buddy Jason are going to be doing every 12,000 foot mountain in Idaho on foot continuously. Should be 5 consecutive days of running. It's going to be the biggest event I've ever done. And I'm really excited to take you guys on the journey of training for it, going through it, and whatever I learn from it. So thank you guys so much for listening to this. Check me out on Instagram. I'm going to be documenting my entire journey from the 100-mile bike ride and training for this event. See ya.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.